All right, welcome back to yet another episode of 100 Apps, 100 Hours. I'm your host, Brian Gillespie, developer advocate here at Directus. And if you're new to the show, the basic gist is this. We take 60 minutes and we try to build or rebuild some of your favorite apps or some of your wildest app ideas. In that 60 minutes, we achieve our stated goals or we publicly fail trying, and by we, I mean me. That's okay though. When I fail spectacularly, usually, but I've got 3 little girls, so I'm used to being hubbled. That's okay. There are just 2 rules. Number 1, you have 60 minutes to plan and build, which does pose some challenges. There's no more, no less. And number 2 is you use whatever you have at your disposal, just like in the real world. Make it work, figure it out. And in today's episode, we are going to take advantage of rule number 2. So what are we building today? We are working on the Intercom messenger, right? Intercom is a help desk, onboarding tool, messaging tool. They've got all these things that are wrapped up into it. It looks like their latest positioning is like customer service, which is great. But like most of their, it comes from this little messenger widget over here, right? So it's not just live chat. It is kind of like a rich format where they can check product news. They can chat with the support team. There's bots, there's AI, there are articles integrated. There's like product tours and stuff like that. The main things that we're concerned with here are this kind of nice interface for this. And then number 2, like this actual like live chat functionality and maybe the ability to add articles. So we keep the user in context. That's what we're going to be tackling today. I think it's doable, not 100% sure. Let's go in and start the clock on this. We will start our timer, 60 minutes, and away we go. All right, so as far as what type of functionality we want out of this, what are the jobs to be done or what are the goals for this specific project? We want to be able to chat with visitors in real time. And then, maybe display rich content inside the messenger. This could take the form of articles, help center stuff, updates, etc. And I totally cannot spell. How are we going to get there though, right? Normally, if you've watched any of the past episodes, at this point, I'm like doing some data modeling. The starting point for today is a little different in that I've already got a project that we're going to lean on. It's called Agency OS, and it already has a fully fleshed out data model. You can explore the front end of this at agencyos.dev, but this actual project you can download and test out yourself. It lives in our Directus Labs organization at directus-labs/agency-os on GitHub. Basically, there's some instructions, but the main features of this include a website, a CRM project tracker type of thing, and then you have a client portal. So on the front end, it kind of looks like this, your standard agency website. We've got all these different blocks. It uses the page builder inside Directus. We've got blog posts and articles. There's a help center that should be displaying some articles that doesn't. And then you have this client portal where clients can log in, keep track of their different projects, see files, see their invoices, pay for those specific invoices, right? This is pretty neat functionality. And then you would basically manage your entire workflow from your deals all the way through like proposals and projects and tasks inside your Directus instance, right? So I can see a list of all the tasks that are necessary to complete this specific project, who's the organization, who are our contacts for that organization, and I can manage this whole thing here. But in this case, I'm using this because we've already got this conversations model and this messages collection. And we have things like help center collections and help center articles already mapped out, which is really nice, just to kind of piggyback off of what I've already built in the past. So if we dive into conversations, those are going to be, I can have multiple conversations ongoing at once. Those would be like the different threads. Inside that, we've got like a user that created it, maybe a visitor ID in this case, if the visitor is not known. We've got some messages inside there. Inside the messages, each message has a bit of text, who was the user or the visitor ID that created it, and away we go. That's what it looks like. We're going to dive into like some of the real-time features of Directus as well. So what have I actually got set up for you here? In starting this project, I've got a Nuxt application that I often use as a starter here for this. The Nuxt application just has a Directus client using the SDK already pre-configured with authentication and REST. I've got some login and register pages, so we can kind of simulate that. But that's kind of it. The other like 2 minutes worth of setup that I have done, this Agency OS project, before the V2 release, I had a janky little chat widget that I was trying to use in this specific project. So I can go back in time here and like find this little chat widget. Let's just copy this in. And it looks like I've already got it copied in and cleaned up. But just a little chat box that we could use. And I could never quite get this to work before the big release. So it ended up getting scrapped. So let's revisit this. I've got our chat widget. Let's drop this thing into our index page. So if we open up this incognito window so I don't spoil any of the... so I'm not using that Directus session token, basically. All right, so I've got my page here. I'm just going to drop this chat widget in there. And now I've just got this shell for a chat widget. It opens, it closes, it kind of looks nice. That's really all it does, right? There's this motionable component that uses the view use motion composables. What is it? View use motion at view use / motion. Just to get like some smooth animations using, I think it uses pop motion under the hood, and it's just tailwind for styling, right? Our content is going to go in here, but let's fulfill that first thing, right? We want to be able to chat with visitors in real time. I don't know why these are bold. That's going to aggravate me. All right. How do we chat with visitors in real time? Directus has powerful real-time functionality built in. Now, inside my Docker Compose file for this, I've already got real-time enabled. So that is the WebSockets enabled part here. And when you're working with real-time in Directus, there's 3 authentication modes. There's public, handshake, and strict. Public just means anybody can open a connection. Handshake means that you don't have to provide the like authentication you could still connect, but the first message has to be authentication. And then strict means you have to pass the authentication before you actually initiate a connection. All right, so what we're wanting to do here, basically, we're going to have to extend our plugin that we have. So I'm going to go into my Directus plugin that I've got. And again, it's just creating a simple SDK client to work with. I'm going to go in here and let's actually create a second client. Create Directus real-time client. So I'm just going to create a new Directus client, and I'll just copy paste this previous client. Great. Except we're not going to use any of this. We're going to use the real-time composable, right? And there is an auth mode property in this case, and I'm just going to pass public because we want anybody to be able to connect to this. So I'm going to create that client, and then the next thing that I'm going to do is provide that client to the Nuxt application. Let's just call it Directus SWS for Directus WebSocket, and we're going to pass Directus WS. Okay, so now we have created this client. Our chat widget still doesn't do anything. That's fine. What we're going to do is open up chat widget, and we're going to access that client. So we'll do Directus WS because Nuxt provide, when you use Nuxt provide, it adds a $sign to the front of it. And we're just going to do use Nuxt app composable. That'll give us access to our WebSocket client. And then we're going to actually open a connection, right? And this application is using like server-side rendering inside Nuxt. So I probably want to like wrap this up inside a composable as well, like an on-mounted hook. So we'll await the Directus WebSocket connect. And I don't work with Directus real-time a lot, so we may get some funky behavior here. That needs to be async. Okay, so I'm just going to open up the console and see if I open up all and I go to WebSocket, we can show a connection here. It says switching protocols. Okay, AWS, localhost. All right, so looks like we've got the WebSocket connection opened. All right, now let's just kind of dig into the documentation a little bit, because the next thing is going to be like subscribing, but we probably need some message handlers. So we'll go in to get started with real time on the documentation. I am doing this just as you might. So you can see that we've got the real-time client here. We've opened a connection to the client, or at least I think we have. And then now we've got like this client. We need to listen for changes, right? So I might as well just plop this in our on-mounted hook. And I'm just going to replace client dot with $sign Directus WS. And now let's see what we actually get out of this. Do we see any actual messages here? I don't know, why am I not seeing any messages? Directus cannot connect when state is open. Do we actually need to pass the auth mode to this? Is that an actual property? Switching protocols, Directus.ws.subscribe. Let's subscribe to messages and see what happens. On message data.undefined. Message. What if we just console log the message here? Console log message. All right. All right, so we see we're not getting anything there. Subscribe error, invalid collection. Okay, so not getting the correct collection. Let's just take a look at this. This is messages. Oh, let's try subscribing to messages, right? On open, console log event open. I don't know why it is not. Not sure why it's not working correctly. You do not have permission to access this, right? So as a public user, we don't have access to the individual messages. All right, so two ways around this. We could potentially provide some authentication, if I could actually talk, right? Or we could give access to this, right? So if I go into my access control settings, I'm going to go to public in this case, and I'm not going to give all access, but maybe we use custom, right? Two things here. The public can create messages. That's fine. But when it comes to reading messages, we don't want people to be able to read other people's conversations. So in this case, let's add just a rule to it. If the conversation visitor ID contains what? Can we even do that, right? We'd have to pass the... let's do this instead. We'll use our website API user for this. And okay, we'll do messages. You can see conversations. I tell you what, let's just open the floodgates here just to test this out and make sure we can see these things. All right, so we've got a subscription. There's our data. Okay, and if I open this up and I add a new message, right? We'll just do test message, save this, we should see that data come through, which we do over here, right? So we see our subscription for the messages. Do we see our actual data here? Great, there's our test message. Here's the user that created that. That's going to be me, the admin user. And we've got the date created, right? We've got all the details of this specific message. All right, so at least now we are getting the messages, right? If we go back to the documentation, we're getting some messages here. That's great. A couple things when we create a subscription, right? We can choose what event to subscribe to. So the event wise, we'll probably do like create. And we can even add a query, right? So imagine we've got a website visitor. We want to basically like create a unique session or a unique ID for that visitor so that that user can only see their messages, right? So what do we need to do there? This might be something like a Nux middleware. Do I have UUIDs in this? Okay, so I've just got like a function in here, and this is like a lot of this is actually ripped from the Agency OS project to begin with. But I've just got a function here for generating an ID, which basically just creates like a UUID v4. All right, so what I'm going to do here, let's just create like a session.global.ts. I'm going to add this in the middleware folder inside Nuxt. And when I do this, if I use .global, that will run on every route. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to copy this. And I don't really need to here. Basically, anytime we navigate to a route, we want to do some things, right? We want to, let's check like a session ID or visitor ID. Visitor ID equals use cookie. So we can set a cookie. That way we can access it server and client side. We've got visitor ID. If visitor ID dot value, if there's no visitor ID dot value, we are going to set up a, what is it? We're going to do visitor .id .value equals generate ID there. Okay. All right. So now basically we've just created a middleware that's going to run globally on every route within this application. and it will create a cookie for the visitor ID. Okay. And now I can see that here, that I've got a visitor ID cookie with just some random UUID value. If I delete that, refresh, we can see we get a new visitor ID. But that cookie will persist across sessions, which is nice. And we don't have to do anything else there. Okay, so as far as our query, if we just go back to the documentation, right, we can add a query, and we can do all the same query params that we would in the regular Directus API. So we do something like filter, where, well, actually, let's back up a minute. We need to get that cookie, right? So visitor ID is equal to use cookie visitor ID. Okay. And then for our filter, we want the messages. Let's think about this, right? We're going to have to create a conversation. Let's just get some messages first, right? So we're going to add the visitor ID to each message. All right, so maybe we just want to be able to see. We're going to have to like create a conversation. There's no way getting around that. All right. How can we create items, right? So we can use that same connection, and then we can actually get all of our like CRUD operations. So let's just do this. We're going to actually set this up. I want to subscribe to 2 items, right? Conversations. And in this case, we want to filter where the visitor ID is visitor.id.value. So inside our data model, right, when we create a conversation, there's a visitor ID for it, so we could track that. Great. Okay, so I can see that there. Then we have the individual messages, and we've honestly got a lot of extra stuff that we're probably not even really going to need here. But we've got visitor.id underscore ID. That's what it is inside our database. And then we've got the cookie value here. So visitor.id. And then the param is going to be like this, equals to visitor.id.value. And then I think we can also pass a UID to this subscription. Let's look at it, learn more about authentication, learn more about subscriptions with WebSockets. All right. Using UIDs, type is subscribe, multiple subscription UID. Okay. So we'll call this UID. And this will be visitor conversations. Thank you, GitHub Copilot. Let's also open a connection for messages as well. Subscribe messages, where messages.create, query, UID. And in this case, we can't just filter out for the visitor messages, right? We also have to be able to show the admin messages as well. So in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to work on the conversations, because we can use the related fields inside Directus collection. So I can go up a level here. It's actually conversation. What's the parameter going to be, right? So we could have potentially multiple conversations, right? So we'll have conversations equals ref, and then we'll have messages. Actually, we might just store all of those, right? Conversation let's look for our query params, global query parameters for our actual filter here, filter rules. We're looking for items within an array. So we're going to use in conversations.value map conversation.id. Okay, I think this should give us what we want. And if I open this now, we can see that we've got a subscription for conversations. We got a subscription for messages. I'm going to just copy the visitor ID here. And the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new conversation. So we'll say new conversation. I'm going to add that visitor ID here. We'll call this test convo. And do we get a message for that? We can see this conversation here. And now let's just test this as well. Will we get test convo not from visitor? Just want to make sure. Okay, so you can see I created a new conversation that didn't have that user ID or that visitor ID, and now we don't actually see that. So how are we doing on time? We got about 35 minutes left. We're looking okay. So let's start having some conversations, right? On messages, on init, subscription init, get conversations. All right, subscribe on open, on message. Okay, so basically all we're doing at this point is listening for messages and just logging that out, right? So we need to do some other things here. Is there another property on init? No, init. I need more practice with real time, obviously. All right, so when we receive the message, let's look and see what our references are here. Full code sample. I think there's actually a guide that I built on multi-user chat, or somebody built this. All right, connect, cleanup, subscribe. Okay, so you can get the actual subscription equals await client.subscribe. Constant subscription equals ws await client.subscribe. And then we can get our initial messages, right? So here, let's just call this get initial convos. And we might also want to grab all the fields within that as well. So we're going to get all the root level fields for the conversation, and then we're also going to get all the message values included in that. And then let's populate conversations.value equals subscription.data. I'm not even sure it's going to be that. We'll just do, let's actually console log subscription. See what we get there. All right, subscription L2 generator. Const subscription. Subscription, unsubscribe, generator state suspended. For message of subscription, for await convo of subscription, push convo. Subscription is not iterable. let's just wrap it like in the documentation here and see what we actually get, right? So now if I show, let's just show the actual conversations. So we'll go into our content section and we'll do div v4 conversation and conversation. Flex call. Let's just add, let's just log that out. Conversation. Wrap it in a pre-tag. Type, subscription, event, init. Yeah, so this might need to actually be updated, right? Subscription, event, await, client, subscribe. Subscription, subscribe to messages, create, event. What am I missing here? Subscribe, if type, message, create, receive message. Subscription started. Oh, okay. We're not actually getting the message history there. Display historical messages. Okay. All right, so basically to get all of the historical messages, we need to read the messages. So we'll do client dot, it's actually going to be directus dot send message. And then we'll get all of the items within the conversations. So that'll just be items. The collection will be conversations. And the action is going to be read here. So we just want to read all of the conversations. And then as far as the query, we'll set a filter where visitor ID equals visitor ID, and we'll just get all of those conversations, and maybe we limit those to like the past 10 conversations, kind of like our documentation here. All right. Send message. Okay, so we're going to get that message. Send message. There's our items that we could see. There's those conversations there. We could see the individual messages within those. But we're not actually populating that data somewhere, right? So we're going to need on our message function here, basically, if the data type equals items. Okay, so when we receive a message, we are going to take our message. All right, if the message.type conversations, there we go. GitHub Copilot knows what we want. And we'll just refresh. When we open the connection, if I go in and we look for chat widget inside the dev tools, do we see our conversations? We don't. Right? Why not? Message. Message, message. If, let's just update this as well. Is connected. State is not open. Okay. So we're getting our messages. They're just not populating to what we want, right? So we see the data is an array. That should be what we want, though. If we open this up, we should be seeing those conversations. Direct to send messages, items, conversations. If equals conversations, conversations.value equals messages.data. Conversations, yeah, that should be right. collection equals conversations, message.type. What is the type equals items? Oh, we don't really have a, maybe we want to add a UID. Type equals UID equals get convos. All right, so now if we take a look at that, right, we should have that UID get convos, and we could just target it that way. If message.uid equals get convos, and now we populate that data. Okay, all right, so now we can see a conversation there. That was a lot of stress just to get this conversation. And let's just go in, and I'm going to add a message to this. Hi. Hey. Okay, now if I refresh, we can see the actual messages within that. That's solid. Okay. And then we want to do something like this where we have selected convo equals ref. Let's just call it conversation. Okay. Solid. All right, so now we need to actually like start showing our conversations, right? So within this, we want to maybe wrap this up, right? We'll do it in like a template tag. If there is no selected conversation, we're going to show this information. Then we'll come down and do another template v if selected conversation. We'll show something else. All right, so instead of our actual conversations here, what if we show, we want to add a button. Do we want to make it a button? Yeah, we do. And then we'll do like the conversation p conversation dot title. I think we've got a title for that. All right, so we refresh, we see test convo. Let's give each one of these a lot of padding. Okay, so we'll do like py6, px4. Maybe we wrap these again. Div, do like a divide y situation. Okay, test convo, test messages dot text, and maybe we show like the user avatar as well. All right, so again, like we might have to drill down into this a little further and do messages dot user created, user underscore created dot dot. And this should give us like all the actual user data in addition to that, right? So I want to make sure that we've got, let's see if we can get like the user avatar. Source equals use files conversations dot messages dot user ID. Can we show the user avatar? What does this use files do? File ID. All right, let's just check the messages real quick. Chat widget, conversations, messages. Are we getting user created? We're not getting that information, so we probably need to control that with access control as well. All right, users. Again, we're just going to open the floodgates. Would not do this on a regular app. Make sure, what other rules do we have here? Public. Okay, and I really don't even have I don't think the admin user has an avatar here either. So let's just add one for that. All files. Let's just add an avatar for me. Refresh. Are we actually getting that avatar? We're not. Anonymous component chat widget. We'll go in. Here's our conversations. Here's our messages. We get the user created. We can see the avatar. Access control, public. Direct us files. Let's just give all access. Yeah. Still not showing it. Use files. Let's just call it like constant file. It may not even be able to use files. What is actually this? Get. Probably need to look at the actual file URL. That's the actual method here. That's why I'm not getting that correct. All right, so file URL. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's not necessarily pretty or amazing. Let's flex it. Test convo. Maybe we'll just show like the number of messages, dot length. And wrap this. And then we do IP, maybe like get, if I got to get relative time, conversation. Oops, just got to wrap that. Get relative time, conversation, date, created. 16 minutes ago, we'll add a little bit of gap here. And let's do text left. Okay. All right, so we got the test convo, and now when I click the button at click, we want to set the selected conversation to the conversation.id. Okay, and now we can see that goes away. And now we just need to show the messages within that, right? So selected, let's do a conversation messages. Yeah, GitHub Copilot knows what I want to do. If that has no value, we're going to return conversation messages. Let's see. Selected conversation.value, conversations.id. Okay. Return conversation messages. Okay, yeah. Sometimes AI is not to be trusted. Sometimes it's okay. All right, so then let's just show the actual messages, right? Do the same thing. Let's copy this down. Div. All right, and then we're going to show. We'll wrap this, and then we need a div for each message. So V for message in selected conversations. Key equals message ID. Let's see what this shows us, right? We've got the test conversation, selected conversation messages. All right, so I select that. We can see this. We don't have the message text. Hey, there's the message text. We're going to need like some padding here. Okay, maybe we want to wrap each message in like a, let's add just a little bit of padding. We'll wrap each message in what, like gray 100. And give it a little bit of padding. P2, rounded XL. Okay, so there's our messages. How are we doing on time? We got like 17 minutes. We are quickly running out of time, right? So now at the bottom of this, we can see the messages generated from the user here. And the other thing that I want to do here is when we send a new message, or when we receive a message, right? If this is the so whenever we create new messages, it needs to be, we're subscribing to the messages. All right, so here we're going to need to pass the messages are received. We want to add them to the proper conversation. All right, so what is GitHub Copilot coming up with? We got conversations.value.find, message.data.conversation. Okay, if conversation.push. All right, let's just test this out and see if we're getting what we actually want here. Localhost 8055. All right, so we got our convo there. I could click into it and see our test message. And now, like, hopefully if I go in and add another message here and just save, we should get that, but we're not seeing that message. Test convo, yo. Why are we not receiving that? Console.log.message, WebSocket messages. Conversation. In that should be a message of the conversations. Subscribe. Is that after maybe we need to await getting those initial messages? All right, so let's open this up. Now we can see both of those messages, right? If I do TTTT, we're still not getting that message. So let's just drop this for now. We would come back and clean this up, but I just want to actually get the messages. All right, TTT, test. So we're getting that visitor messages array. It's just not populating to the proper conversation. All right, so don't trust GitHub. If get convo, if messages, what's the actual message that we received? Get convo subscription event.create visitor messages. It's basically, we need to use that UID again. UID equals visitor messages and message data. I think that should take care of it. Test convo. We're still not getting that, right? Chat widget. Selected conversation messages. Selected conversation. Conversation. It's just not populating those messages here. What are we doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? If conversation, conversation dot value, conversations dot value dot find. That's not really going to work, is it? So we need to, like, we're getting the conversation value. So here's the message, here's the data. We're getting back an array of data, actually. Conversations.value.find data. message.data is an array. Okay. Conversation. I don't even know if this is actually going to work, is it? That shouldn't work. We'll test it and see. Yeah, it's not going to work. Promise.avatar. So we need to definitely add that as well. To our query, we're going to add the same thing, or similar. Where we have fields, we're going to have user created $. Okay, so we got our test convo. Can we receive messages from reading an avatar? Man. Okay. Conversation.messages.push. Why is it not seeing the avatar? Chat widget. Conversations. Messages within that. Oh, it's pushing that into the array. Message.data.0. That would be why. All right, one more time again. I'm just going to delete some of these. Save it. We refresh over here. We can see there's our convo. We do yo. We save. Okay, so now over here on the client, I can see that conversation or that message being populated. So we'll just add a little gap between these. Space Y2. Okay. And we'll probably need to do like message.user created dot, if we have a message user dot created, and message dot user created dot avatar. All right, so we're only going to show that if we have it. And then the next thing that we need to do in a hurry here, about 9 minutes, is to actually start populating these messages, right? So we want to add some form fields to this down here at the bottom somewhere. So if we're inside this selected conversation, great. Let's add the message form. Cool. All right, and we'll do, I've got this nice Nuxt UI library here. So we'll do at submits and message, and it just gives us some nice inputs here. Flex column, there's the wrapper. Where is this actually going to be? Inset 0. uform, send message, vmodel, new message. All right, so let's add our new message. New message equals ref. That'll be blank. Let's have a function for send message. Okay. Send messages, create conversation, selected conversation.value, new message.value, user created. Oh, where did you go? We can rely on AI here, and we don't want to use UID or UID for this. Well, maybe we do. Send message. And we're not going to use the user created. All right. Does this give us, where's my little bar at? User. User selected conversation. There's no selected conversations. VF user message dot created. Well, message dot user created dot avatar. Okay. So now we got a form. The form should actually be pushed to the bottom. So that'll be flex 1, height full. Okay. Then inside this form, I want that to flex justify between. Okay. Maybe we add a bit of padding to that as well. Like P2. Give it a border T. And we stick it to the bottom. Nope. This will be like overflow Y. Auto. Okay. Flex justify between. This could probably even be like stuck to the bottom in absolute. All right. So let's just change this to like text area. Hey. And now we can see we can actually chat with that specific person. Inside our send message, we're probably going to delete that new message as well. Just set that value once that's actually populating. Okay, so now I can see my convos. I can open up that convo. I can send a message to their team. Great. How could we actually show the Help Center articles, right? In 5 minutes, can we get this rich content within there? We're going to be pushing that, right? Pushing it quite a bit. All right, so we got our chat widget. We're probably going to need like a page functionality or something. Like, hey, what page are we on? The default is, let's set that to chat. So this will be, this is our conversations. And can we wrap this in another template tag? Or it might be easier just to stick it inside a div. All right, so div if page equals chat, we're going to show that. All right, so we should still see that now. When we open this up, still see that. Great. But let's just show another page. Div v if page equals articles. All right, so then we're going to show the articles. Maybe we show like a card v4, article in articles. I don't think any of these are actually going to apply. uCard. We'll just do like a p tag for the article dot title and see what this shows. Key is equal to article.id. All right. And now we need like some kind of widget at the bottom of this to actually show, right? We need like a menu. So let's do div, do like buttons. This is not at all. Show an icon, name equals Herocon's chat bubble left ellipsis. Let's just call this chat. And actually, then we need a U button for icon name equals articles. How are we doing on time? 3 minutes. Are we going to actually get this or not? Let's see what this shows. Chat. This is going to be absolute bottom 0. P4 flex gap 4. Give that a little gap. I don't particularly like the icons for this. Let's just, okay. And then if click, at click, this is going to be page equals articles. There we go. And at click, page is equal to chat. Okay. Is that actually going to work? Page is equal to chat. Page is equal to articles. Okay. So now we're switching those back and forth. We just don't have any articles, right? So let's use our client here. We've got articles. We could do a ref. Just make that an array. And then we'll have like a function. Get articles. And we can use that same connection again, right? Fetch articles. I could use the regular REST connection as well in this case. But let's try to use this. Send message. We want collection of articles. This is going to be a read. And the data UID, we'll just do get articles. Okay. Oh, how we doing? We got 1 minute, 20 seconds. Get articles. That's our function. Okay. And then on our receive bit here, if message.uid and message data articles.value.messages. Okay. What else do we need to do here? We need to fetch those articles first, right? So let's do like a watcher. Watch page, new page, if page equals articles, get articles. Is this actually going to work? Error, invalid collection. Oh no, we don't have articles. They're what? Posts. Is that what it is? Oh, there we go. With what time to spare? 21 seconds, right? Okay, so we can actually see a list of the articles. That's about as good as we're going to get in in this amount of time left. I'm calling that a win. So we can actually show the list of articles here. The next part would be to just probably actually like set these up to like be able to read the rich text for those articles right within the little widget. But, hey, that is a wrap. Great. And if I open up Directus, we can see all the messages within that conversation. And honestly, I would probably build some kind of interface over here inside Directus to be able to manage this. All right, so if we just wrap this one up, did we actually get to the Intercom messenger? You know what? In an hour, almost impossible to rebuild. I'm calling that now unless you built it before. But far cry. But hey, the basics are there, and it goes to show you just how far along you can get with Directus in an hour using the tools that are provided. So that's it for this episode of 100 Apps, 100 Hours. I hope you enjoyed following along. You could probably see the sweat bubble up on my face at this point, but stay tuned for the next one. We'll see you.